in public.
That does not sit well with me.
Oh, yeah. The parents might have no problem with it being a public conversation. Or the issue should have been.
Oh, here we go.
My opinion, if we want to pull something.
Candace, pledge of allegiance. Okay. Everybody stand for the pledge. Candace, if you would, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Good evening, folks. Call this meeting of the Town of Johnsburg Board to order for June 3rd. Need to, a resolution to accept, or we need to move, boy, my brain function. Need a motion to move the minutes, bring the minutes to the floor, please.
Motion?
Second.
Any conversation or questions? Nope. Okay. All right. Call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Discussion on local law for the food pantry. Okay, so Danae and I attended New York State Association of Towns meeting. I think it was March or April. I'm not remembering. There were a couple of things that came up during that meeting. This happened to be one of them, that because we're using, so any one of us here can write a check to a non-for-profit, no problem. But when we're giving tax dollars that we receive from the taxpayers, there's certain things that have to be in place for the food pantry, local law, and then also a contract. So what we're gonna do is we got a couple of examples of local law. Once it's done, it will then be sent to Department of State.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah, we'll do the public hearing, the naming of the local law, and then once
Right.
everything is signed and done and approved, that documentation goes to the state, and then they send a letter stating that
Right.
they've received and approved our local law and
Right.
it's on the books.
so that's step one, and then once we get the local law in place, then step two will be an actual contract between the town and the food pantry. Any thoughts or questions on said subject?
What's the amount that we're giving now?
This year, I believe it was $12,000 we gave to the food pantry.
Has that been pretty consistent?
I think it was up from last year. I think last year was 10. I believe this year was 12. I'm pretty sure I've got that one right.
And we've talked to, what, Bolton?
Anna, really? No, I want to say one is Montgomery down in Orange
Okay.
County, and then there was another one, I'm trying to remember upstate. I'm not recalling.
Okay,
But Glenn has, our attorney has copies of those local laws, and he's in the process of drafting one that we can review.
okay, great.
And just to confirm, this has no impact on this year funding for the
No,
food pantry.
correct.
They've gotten their money.
Yep.
This isn't going to impact it. This is just to get us in compliance.
Correct. Yeah, this is one of those things where Danae being Danae said, it's not like the auditor's going to come looking for this stuff, but I'd rather get it done and make sure that it's done in case they do decide to come looking for it, so. Mhm. 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 Yep. Yeah, I'll be taken care of.
And the food pantry is still a part of also the backpack program, correct? Or is that separate? They're separate? The backpack program,
Yeah,
okay.
it's all one.
All right. And for those of you who don't know, the backpack program is incredible for food insecure students at our school, making sure that when they go home on the weekends, that they do not wake up Saturday morning or Sunday morning hungry.
Okay.
Good stuff.
Okay, I think we can move on to the next one. All right, next is resolution to authorize Supervisor Bean to sign agreement between the town of Johnsburg and Johnsburg Historical Society. Again, this is one of those things that came up at that meeting, the Association of Towns contract, because again, we are using taxpayer money to fund the Historical Society, and this needs to be in place. This would actually go in place during the organizational meeting in January, when we start every year. Need a motion to bring that to the floor, please.
Move. Second.
Do we have questions or concerns?
Renewable every year.
Yep.
Uh, Should we set a date for the renewal so that it's along the lines of our budgeting process?
Well, it's
So
going,
as opposed to renewing on the 20 or January 1, should we have that renewal be during the budgeting process? Because that's who will be budgeting for a contract,
yeah, true.
right? So that's my first question. I guess the second one is, why do we need a local law for the food pantry and not for the historical society? So why are there two different?
The two, well, that's a good question. I would, again, this is one of those things that when, and I can't remember exactly the answer to give you, Jim, but it was basically, for whatever reason, food pantry has to be local law first and then the contract. As far as the Historical Society, it's just a contract. I can't give you
Okay.
a specific answer, but I can find that out and give it to you.
Sure, I just think, you know,
I,
following
under-
one after another.
I
just so
understand the
it's
question. I do.
Clarity for
Yep.
everybody.
And that's through Danae, the law of how that works.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Other than that, I think it's an important thing for our community, our town, preserve the past. Hopefully we learn from it.
So September, like a September date?
Yeah, I think we should renew it before the end of the year
Mhm.
because we're budgeting for it. So having that contract September, I think is great. We can
Okay.
renew it in September.
Okay.
Again, check on Danae with that.
Yep.
Then would we need to do it at the January meeting then as a?
Yeah, it has to be part of the organization. From what I gather, everybody, the supervisors I spoke to, both Ron Conover from Bolton and Michael Gerasi from Horicon, that's what they included in their organizational meeting every year, every January.
Sure. I'm wondering if maybe we should see if they do the budget,
Yeah,
because
we-
then that's 2 times we're working on
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
to-
Okay, yeah, that's
We
the
could
question.
just do it at the January meeting, are you thinking?
Well, I'm just saying the contract itself says it expires December 31st, 2025. So if we're just going to September for budget reasons, maybe we could just make a note for the budget committee
Sure.
to review that
Yep.
and keep the December 31st so it goes in line with the organization.
Okay,
Pending all that, I think it's great. Let's do it.
well, it should at least, yeah, it'll be part of the budget process, so obviously. All right, I think we had two motions. I need a vote for this. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, resolution to hire temporary staff for transfer station. Mr. Olaszewski, do you want to speak to this for a moment or two, or would you rather us just read the note that you sent?
I didn't know if this was-
Yeah, I just caught him up top.
Tried to sneak in, sorry.
The town transfer station and the solid waste committee, we identified the problem earlier this year. And that was the fact that we have too many, returnable items going into our recycling. The town is actually paying a higher cost to send those out. We also have noticed that we're not as efficient as we could be when it comes to filling our recycling containers, cardboard, for example. Other transfer stations in the county typically can send out a ton of cardboard at a time, where we run between 3/4 of a ton at a time. What doesn't change is the hauling cost, regardless of how much is in the container. So the idea, the concept that we had was to create a part-time, year-round position. This person would act sort of as a docent, sort of as an extra set of eyes and hands, someone who can educate folks on what is recyclable, what is not, how do we sort, where does it go, assist them with that, ensure that returnables are taken out of the regular recycling stream, etc. You folks were great enough to create the position. The position was funded. Unfortunately, after advertising for several months, we have not been successful finding what we feel is a valid candidate for a year-round position. However, what we already have in our midst are 2 young men who are seasonally able to work, or on a temporary basis, I should say, able to work there, starting immediately. They can help me cover the full-time attendant duties when our full-time attendant is on vacation, is sick, needs a personal day. But also, when we can provide that second person, that docent, that educator, that assistant who can focus on recycling, create a more efficient system, hopefully save money. So what I've recommended are 2 young gentlemen. One is currently working in our cemetery, but only part-time, so he has extra hours in the week that he could be up there. And then the second was ready to be onboarded for the summer program. Again, only is committed to 20 hours a week, so again, has time that he can fill in. Hopefully, we can do this. It'll be successful. We'll see the dividends. That's about it.
Okay. Need a motion to bring this to the floor, please.
Motion.
Second.
Okay. Any other discussion or conversation? Okay, call for a vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Okay. Yep. Next, resolution to deem 7 old galvanized culverts as scrap. And conversations with Fred, it turns out that we've got stuff that's been sitting in the lot for quite some time. It's been, I guess, I'm not sure if it was used or not, but it's rotted out on the bottom. We figure what we can do is at least get some money for it and put it back in the budget. So that's the idea, is to use it as, get somebody to bid on it. Take 3 bids and then take the highest bid and bring the money back into the budget. I need a motion to bring this to the floor, please.
So moved.
Second?
Okay. Any other questions or conversation?
So just to be clear, that we're deeming them scrap right now.
Mhm.
Similar to the logs,
Mhm.
we will treat this just as the logs. Well, I have see no value in rusted culverts. Somebody might. We'll put an ad out, take whatever they can come see, make an offer, make a bid, sealed. Just like the logs, we'll open it and say, here it is, take it away.
Absolutely.
I understand there may be other metal. Maybe we should specify other associated metal, because there was stuff that was put in the culverts to go as scrap metal also.
Okay.
Not just nail it down to those 7 specific culverts.
The only thing I would caution you on things outside of the boat, we have an understanding, we have an agreement with Planet South. And the highway department has a metal dumpster there. So anything that is able
Right.
to go.
Into the dumpster should go.
Should go to
Should by
that.
all
Yep.
rights go, and we should earn whatever revenue is available through Planet. The culverts, when I was approached about them, they were not, it was not possible to crush them and put them into
Right.
the container. And so that's why it had to be a special case. That's just my 2 cents, is we have a great relationship with Planet. We also use them at the transfer station. They have been phenomenal to work with this year.
Yep.
The return on our scrap metal at the transfer station, already for the first 5 months of the year, is about what it was for 12 months last year. So that's just a consideration.
Yep.
My 2 cents.
Got it. Thanks. All right, I think we need to call for a vote. All those in favor? Aye. All right. Next on the agenda, executive session. You good with that?
No,
Okay, I want
yeah,
you to, because I
yeah,
want you to voice
yeah,
this.
yeah.
Okay.
So I'm not sure why we're going into executive session to talk about this. There's a contract review built into the Tammy Ponds contract at year 7. That's in 5 years, if I'm doing my math correctly.
Yep.
It's a public building paid for with public funds. All the info about this is public record. So it feels like the only reason we would be going into executive session, quite frankly, is to keep our opinions private. I am a public servant. Anything that I have to say in executive session about this, I am happy to be a part of the public conversation. So to me, the reason for executive session doesn't really line up with this conversation and the resolution that follows. So I am uncomfortable, and I would prefer to have this conversation be public.
It's a lease of property.
Hmm.
It's a lease of property.
Yeah, it's a lease.
But it's a lease that is going to be in a
It's-
contract 5 years
Well,
down the
and it's
road.
really, I don't know.
And it's all a matter of
How do you feel
public
about this? You wanna-
record.
you wanna
So
stick
the
to
only
it?
thing that's private
Their
is our
request was
opinions.
to not do this public.
Okay.
But why do we not want to do it publicly? Because anything that's in the contract is a matter of public record. So the only thing that's being kept private is the content of this board's conversation, which to me flies in the face of transparency and communication.
I really don't have a problem with what's in it.
I'll take part ownership in that. Kevin and Jim came to me, and my understanding was there were monies involved, so that was not
No,
good. to
that's
have a
changed.
public-
that
Okay,
has changed.
Okay, so that was part me as
Yeah,
well.
no, and this is just, difference of opinion. No, we have it, no, we have it in front of us. We have a different, agenda than you because it was updated, so
Right.
you may not have that copy.
No, he's talking about the laws, no.
Right. But this, again, this is not, there's no money that's going to change in this right now.
If we take up
And that was
the
my
resolution,
misunderstanding.
then it becomes a public matter. When we take up the resolution is when it becomes a public matter.
I understand that. My opinion is that there's really not, the only thing that's changing in this is the number of years. That's it.
Which you can vote however you want. Yeah.
Call for a vote for executive session. Roll call.
Councilperson Hyde?
Nay.
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 Yes.
Nay.
Okay. Resolution to approve authorize lease extension for Tannery Pond. Pretty much, folks, I'm going to make this very quick. Tannery Pond, and I'm hoping I can make this public now, can I? Okay, all right, good. All right, but Tannery Pond is going to receive $78,000 from a grantor. They are already down to 18 and a half years on the lease, I believe. I think I've got that right. So the grantor wants the lease to at least be 20 years because of life expectancy of the project that they're going to be doing. So what we're going to do is, at this point, extend the lease for an additional 5 years. We will be reviewing the lease at 7, 5 years from now, as Anna said. But right now, all we're doing is adding 5 so that they can, in turn, accept this grant of $78,000, which will go for, I believe it's fixing this concrete and sidewalks. Right. Yep. So that's really it. It's going to be an extension of 5 years. So,
And congratulations for getting that grant. I know it was a big risk to go in for a capital grant like that, and it was a lot of work. So congratulations. It's a lot of work.
all right. Motion up, yes?
Let's do
Yeah,
it.
we need
Let's
to,
do our
can we, guys, hang on one second. We need to bring this to the floor, please. Motion, bring it to the floor.
Motion.
Okay. Any other further conversation?
Yes,
Go ahead.
quite a bit. We need to do this as though we were in executive session. So my initial concerns with this lease was we're extending it for 5 years and we're extending operating payments for 5 years with the lease. So the lease extension and the terms of that lease extension is a financial transaction. It's not just extending the lease, it's also extending the operating payments for an additional 5 years. So contrary to what other people were saying is there's no money involved, yes, there is money involved. This was a contract that was made. My reservation is tying up another board 25 years from now with payments. In conversations with Tannery Pond today, they didn't want this to be a public debate and argument. We said we would go into executive session. They were comfortable with that and trying to honor what their comfort level was. So in conversations with them, an initial lease that we had shared was to extend the lease for 5 years and have the payments continue for 20, but not add an additional 5 years. They expressed reservations with that. They explained clearly that in year 7, the operating expenses can be looked at, renegotiated with the town. There's a safety then that's built in for a future board. And I looked at that, I changed my opinion. In executive session, I would turn to Arnold Stevens and I would say, Arnold, you signed this agreement. Are you comfortable extending it another 5 years and holding up taxpayer money? He was part of the board that negotiated this agreement, put this agreement in place. In executive session, I would be asking him directly his comfort level in extending it further. So because we are now in a public forum doing this, I'm going to ask him, Arnold, are you comfortable taking the lease as is and extending it until 2049 under the terms that allow it to still be reviewed after 7 years?
Comfortable, yes,
Yep.
absolutely.
Yeah. So that being said, and coming back from our meeting with Tannery Pond and discussing with Kevin, discussing with our attorney if that was doable and acceptable. And then I believe you did share it
Mhm.
with Tannery Pond.
It got some.
Tannery Pond being comfortable, we've removed that section and changed it to just extending the entire agreement along with operating payments for 5 additional years. So that being said, fully supportive of this. And that's the discussion I'll have. They're the 30%. Yes. again, it's an agreement that was in place when this board came. Why I turned to Councilperson Stevens, who was part of that, and gauge his comfort level. Nothing in the contract changes, except the addition of 5 years on the length and term of it. And as the contract states, those operating payments will last at 30% for the term of the contract. So, yeah.
Okay. Any other conversation or concerns with regard to this resolution?
Question?
Oh, yes, Bruce.
So, and I'm a little bit fuzzy on the dollar amounts. 2023, the adopted modified budget for family funds, 180,000. In 2024, 125,000. In 2025, the proposed budget is 116,000. So under this modified lease, what will be the total for the 2026 budget?
Yeah. The first 5 years, Bruce, are established at a fixed dollar amount.
So it
I
was,
didn't bring the contract in.
so it's 70, it was 75 last year, 66,000 this year. I'm not, 9,000 a year, so 66, so we're down to,
After 6 years,
50
it goes down to $22,500.
So in year 5, year 6, I
5.
believe, is when the 30% of their
Right.
operating budget kicks in. Now, operating budget is got strict terms. It's not programming, it's the cost of maintaining the building. So insurance, lights, heat, so on and so forth. It's not, the operating budget is not programming, right? So that 30% extends for the entire eternity of the lease. Able to be reviewed at 7 years.
7 years.
So it's the whole, the lease and the payments are all together. Yeah, so think of it not as a contract, think of it as terms of a lease. Yep.
$9,000 per year until we get to year 7, when we sit down with Tannery and renegotiate exactly what the town's, I guess usage, or yes, usage fee, I guess.
Could I recognize Pete up there, please?
Yep.
The numbers aren't going to make sense, Bruce, because what's being forgotten by both sides is the direct contribution, if you will, that the Department of Public Property and Programs puts into the building, which for the last 2 years has been $50,000 per year. So the lease agreement plus whatever is budgeted by my department for upkeep, maintenance, trying to chip away at the master list of needed repairs, things like redoing the floor, painting the outside of the building, cleaning the carpets every year. So that is the variable, because that is contractual in my budget, which is subject to debate and approval and going up or down from year to year, depending on, the pleasure of the board, working with me and my department. The lease is locked in, and that does decrease over time. But again, we have chosen for the last 2 years to keep a $50,000 maintenance budget, if you will, for the building. I would anticipate keeping that number the same for next year. So the decrease should be the $9,000 from the town. Should be about 100.
And I'd like to point out, some of the reason that the the lease was made with the town was to be able to go after grants to help with the building. We sit here today and we're talking about a lease agreement because of the success of getting the grant. So that's important to note. $78,000 to shore up the foundation, fix the front steps, and other issues, you know, that's all good stuff.
And again, to that point, that is 1.5 times what I've been able to budget the last 2 years.
Right.
For the overall maintenance of the building. So the fact that they were able to secure that in one grant is a phenomenal opportunity.
Donna?
just wanted to point out, he referred to his list of items, and the items that the grant is funding are on that list, and they will be crossed off his list.
Yeah, and I'll just point out to you that that is, exhibit E of the lease. It was agreed upon with everybody, all parties, of the things that were on the list of, punch list of the, of everything that was deferred maintenance and or things on the building that needed to be repaired, that was as much immediately as possible, but the town, we did not have the money, and not all of us didn't have the money. So, our work trying to get monies to help us do all of this, through the town is what we're trying to do. We appreciate that cooperation.
All right, I think we need to bring this to a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'd just say thanks formally, and just go back in history a little bit, that Arnold, you know, that, town of Johnsburg coalesced a future committee to decide what to do about Cannery Pond, because the expenses were getting to be too much. And what we came up with was Cannery Pond Center taking it over with the idea that we would be able to get grants and alleviate some of the expenses. And so we really appreciate your extending it, and it's our privilege to be able to assist the taxpayers of the town of Johnsburg by providing this amount of money, so we thank you. We will look forward to doing a more formal presentation and
Yeah.
acknowledgement that one with all of you in California.
Okay,
Stuff.
great. Warrants, need a motion to bring warrants to the floor, please.
Move. Second.
Any questions or concerns on the warrants? Seeing none, call for a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Committee reports. Mr. Hyde.
Well, I missed the solid waste committee report, and I was going to ask Mr. Hoskins or Mr. Olszewski if they would, any further information on the highway, or the solid waste committee. You said you were talking about getting the county rep up here,
Yeah,
possibly
I'll
for our
let
next.
Pete, go through what he knows. He's been gathering the latest data on the budget and funding that we've already made, better than budget so far. And I'll let Pete do that.
All right.
You know, we are going to invite the county representative of West to the next meeting if possible. So we can work more closely with them on recycling, which really would benefit from recycling.
Now that we're through the first 5 months of the year, it appears that the new system is working as intended. There are still the occasional concern about paying for trash. But folks have really taken to the debit card system, particularly. For the month of May alone, we did about $8,000 worth of sales through the credit card machine. For the year, we have only spent about $16,000 so far. Well, I should say that's through April. Through the first 4 months, we spent about $16,000 on hauling and disposal of trash, C&D, and recycling. That puts us about 49% ahead of where I projected us to be based on last year. Revenue-wise, we are almost exactly on target. We need to average about $7,500 per We're also coming into our busiest time of the year with C&D. The next 4 months, we anticipate our highest levels coming in, going out. Again, I think it is working exactly as intended. It's going to generate the revenue that we need to make the entire station much more self-sufficient, less reliant on taxpayer dollars, and keep the fees in the hands of the folks that are using them. In terms of improvements, switching our scrap metal provider has paid huge dividends, as I mentioned earlier. We've sent 4 loads out already this year, and our revenue is just about what we had for all 12 months of last year. We also no longer have the unsightly, unsafe pile over on the side. We were able to clean that area up, keep things tidy. Working with the county itself has been phenomenal. They are responsive. They are quick to come when we call and tell them that we need a swap out. A few little hiccups here and there because they've got 3 or 4 different drivers and it's not the same person that comes each time, but we've been able to work through everything. And really was one of the best things that could have happened for not only our town, but it sounds like for all 13 transfer stations in Warren County, with the DPW stepping up, county DPW stepping up and taking this over. As Pete mentioned, we plan on getting Scott Royal, who is the county solid waste coordinator, up here to meet with our committee. Kind of to start talking about next year, next steps, things like that. Other improvements, again, with the hiring of these 2 young gentlemen, hopefully we can start tackling head-on the recycling issues and the efficiency issues, which will also reduce our costs. Let's see. I feel like there's more, but, yes, Judy Brown, unfortunately, is not going to be able to join us for meetings and things for a little bit. She just had her hip replaced, but she is still actively working on the second reuse shed, the one for the furniture. She tells me that it could be available to be delivered in as little as a month. So I will be coming back to talk with the town board at the next meeting about how we can possibly bridge the remaining gap in the funding that needs to happen to make that come to fruition. But I think that'll be a huge improvement and a positive thing that will be well received by the community. Will do a lot of good for our community. So, yeah, I could not be happier with the way that things are going right now. And thank you for all the support. And we'll keep updating you as we go along. I don't know if he has anything else.
All Pete's.
All the Pete's. Ms. Bowers?
This is not really a committee thing, but good of the group. Centennial is next Friday for the school. Heather Flanagan came last week. Pete, I can't remember what, it starts at 4?
Public stuff.
Public stuff starts at 4 at the school. So just to yeah. So just a reminder for everybody, Heather Flanagan came last week and told us about it. It's the Centennial for the school. That starts at 4. We have a budget committee meeting this Thursday, 5 p.m. here at the library.
It's got to be here.
It's got to be here. So it's going to be here upstairs.
Yep.
And then I don't know if this falls under zoning and planning or if I'm tiptoeing into your territory, Jim, but I was in Glens Falls yesterday, and like everywhere right now, they are doing construction. All the roads are down, and they had a great, beautiful, big sign that says blah, blah, blah is open for business. And they had a list of all the businesses that were open. So I don't know if that is something that is through the town or is it through Cedarwood, but some of the businesses have come to the CDC and talked about that.
I had conversations
Yeah,
today.
yeah, and
Yeah.
getting something up, and again, I don't know if that's zoning and planning, or again, if I'm tiptoeing into other territory, but getting something up like that on both ends of Main Street, I think would help some of the businesses just feel a little better as stuff is happening, even though it's all been very manageable and everything has gotten out there. I think sometimes just that signage makes people feel, as we get into summer, that they know that that's going to, again, everything's been going great. It looks great. But as summer comes, people have sort of mentioned that, and that signage could work. But I don't know who we go through for that. If it's a cedarwood thing,
No, it's not a cedarwood
It's
thing.
not a
It
cedarwood
would-
thing,
It would
okay.
be, maybe there's some ARPA money that the town can use to get a couple of vinyl signs, hang them
Okay.
up.
or occupancy tax too, because it would be a business thing.
Either way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
But
okay.
we should probably,
Yeah.
I
Okay.
heard that from a couple of business
Okay,
people today.
okay.
Sewer, keeps digging up the road, putting pipes in the ground, drilling holes. And mysteriously, I don't know where the pipe comes from, but they drill and somehow there's pipe that then pops out of the ground. Question asked of me was, well, they keep drilling, but I don't see any pipe. And, but they're getting it done. Keller is the one that we see on Main Street. Keller is the one that's doing the collection and conveyance. They will be working from where they are in front of Tannery Pond up Main Street. When it comes to 28N, they won't be digging that up. That won't get disturbed. They'll be drilling. Basically from the very kind of front where the state right away is, they'll drill up to the top of the hill, kind of where the bank is. And then they're going to work their way down, Main Street over the course of the summer. Orta's, the tanks at the Joe Minder Lodge that will service the Orta Lodge will be put in next week. So there'll be a big crane over there. Two 6,000-gallon tanks get buried. If Orta decides to move forward on their SBR unit, they could very quickly open up. We haven't had any calendar yet from Jerson. That is the plant operator and constructor. Those are much larger tanks that will go in over here behind Town Hall at the plant. Two 60,000-gallon tanks, so a lot bigger, a lot more volume. The Holden Hall plan for Orta requires use of those 60,000-gallon tanks. We'll be having a construction meeting on Friday here at Tannery Pond to meet with Jerson, hammer out some of that ordering, delivery dates, and construction schedules. So I meet with Orta tomorrow. So it's been a lot of communication to keep everyone in the loop and flowing. Today's communication was to find the capped end of the Orta Lodge. I didn't know they did this, and I was kind of amazed. Thought it was going to be more time consuming, but Galusha had put a GPS chip at the end of the cap that was buried underground. They walked around and said, "Yep, beep beep, here it is," and spray painted the ground, and that cleared up Keller to be able to know where it is and hook up that up to the tank. So it's all progressing like a construction zone. So there's dirt and there's rocks and there's roads and flag people, and I too am concerned about our businesses on Main Street. It does seem as though, and now I'm off of the sewer committee and on a soapbox, but it does seem as though Memorial Day passed Johnsburg by. When I, as a businessman who sells coffee, deliver coffee to Warrensburg, deliver coffee to Chestertown, and my wholesale accounts have sold, 30 bags or more in a week's time, and I come to Johnsburg and the store in Weavertown sold 2, and a cafe on Main Street sold 3. Memorial Day passed Johnsburg by, and I do think we need to be bold. I do think we need to look at other ways to utilize our OCTAX money to get the word out, whether it be signs that say, here are the businesses on Main Street, whether it's marketing, we do need to do something. So, pass it on to you.
Town of Johnsburg Senior Committee. We last week four of us, myself, Art Webb, Kevin Bean, Pete O, had a group visitation down at the Lake Luzerne Senior Center, where their senior meal site is. They graciously supplied our group with a lot of different information about how their meal program operates, and have offered that if there is anything that they can do to further help us, to let them know. It was very informative, and we look forward to being able to implement maybe some of the ideas that they had. We do have, the senior committee does have a meeting tomorrow where we will be talking about our senior day. The results of the senior day have been at least compiled, and now to be able to put all of these ideas together into a form that can be presented to the town board and to the town. So we'll be talking about that tomorrow. And we will also be talking about a grant that has been recently received, a $2,500 grant that has recently been received, and talking about the who, what, when, where, and why of that grant. I don't know if Pete has anything more to add, or if Art has anything more to add, or Kevin.
I thought it was a great visit. I thought there was a lot of great information. They fed us. It was a good meal. I mean, it was really pretty impressive. Hats off to Gene Merlino for pulling that one off. But yeah, he took an old bowling alley and made it into a senior center, and it's really quite something. Not right in town, just on the outskirts, but yeah, it was a good visit. We'll follow up with some more information down the road.
I would just say the grant came from AARP, the Community Challenge Grant.
Okay.
It's really to improve for a select group of seniors who don't have the money, may not have accessibility to the front door or the bathroom.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, access stuff. Yep. Yeah.
And the agreement was signed, returned, we are good to go. There's a couple more steps, including a webinar for all of the recipients of this round of grant funding, so that'll be coming up in 2 weeks, I think. We should also mention, I think, Art, that we did submit a third, correct?
Yes.
You want to mention that one too?
I will. The community grant, well, not region, we also submitted a grant for that to help us continue to build off the senior day that Robert talked about in terms of education information and try to maximize this amazing center we have up here on 28. If we get halfway to what Luzerne has done in terms of attendance, meals, access, that would be just a fabulous opportunity and contribution to our town.
Mhm.
So yeah, we have another grant we just submitted.
It's really exciting. It seems like for years, the town of Johnsburg did little to nothing to directly try to address issues with our seniors or look at ways that we can improve services, improve programming. This is not that different than the process we followed with the transfer station. Again, I talked at length about all the exciting things happening there. A couple of years ago, we realized that we needed to go out, we needed to look, we needed to find out what other people were doing. And we did that, and we found some other transfer stations that were doing it really well. And then we've been working to emulate that. I think we have found they call it the Taj Mahal of senior centers in Luzerne. I think we have found our mountaintop that now we can see what is possible if we work at it and we put the time and the effort in. I hope that everything that we're doing will be well received by the community. I think it will. Again, unfortunately, I don't think our community is getting a whole lot of it. So we need great.
I'm gonna just follow up on what Jim said. I today took the Keller schedule down Main Street and stopped at a number of different businesses, and they're all struggling. Every one of them that I spoke to. I'm worried. They're worried. I'm worried. We have to do something. And I know that the Tri-Town is looking at something, but I think we've got to look at how we market this town, how we push information out, whether it's about Rev Rails, whether it's about rafting, whether it's about events at Tannery Pond. We have got to find a way to get people here. Here. Yes, Arthur.
What gets to that point, which is why you're saying this, is on one side of the North Main, we have an anchor, Henry Pond. And on the north side of Main Street, we can picture for that weekend. To that point, have you gotten any feedback about time and opening and other kinds of?
The last I heard, it was, they were looking at July, but that again was, I mean, the last couple of text messages I had with Kira were about mattresses. So I'm not so sure he's going to want to answer many of my text messages for a while, but I will reach out. But I really do think we need to look at how to market what goes on here in Johnsburg ourselves. And I think what we can do is you look at it as not an either or, but a both and. I mean, what the Tri-Town is going to do will help, but we need to do something to help the folks that are here on our Main Street now. Yes.
I think part of the problem is there's no place to be them. You come to town and there's no place, there's one or two places that may be open. And most of the places are just opening on weekends, so nobody's gonna come to a town
I-
where they can't
I'm-
get food.
Cheryl, I'm just trying to figure a way.
No, but I'm just
I
saying
think
that
there,
that's part of the
yeah.
problem.
I think there's some creative ways where, and it's going outside of the town. I think to ask a small town with a small budget to take all of this on is unrealistic. And I think when it comes to the restaurants, there are things that you can do where you solicit people to actually come to your town. There was a story, I'm going to miss it, but it was in the Northern Adirondacks where they had somebody return there and they opened up a restaurant. So there's things that you can do where you solicit businesses to come to you. You have to sell yourself as a business. But I would say in hiring marketing right now, we have to also think about what do we look like right now. So I think there's a few things you have to do before you start marketing yourself, right? So if your downtown is a little desolate, there's a lot of construction going on, the lodge isn't finished, there's a few things that have to work. It's a complex conversation, but I think working with the county on the issue of restaurants and how you get businesses to come to towns. I mean, there are programs that do that. You say there are incentives for you to come here. Because I agree, when I travel, the first thing you can ask my husband is, where are we going to eat? And if the town does not have a good restaurant, we're not staying there. So that's a huge, huge thing, but we're going to have to go outside of our own selves because we certainly do not have the pockets to do all of these things. And then there are also smaller things that we can do just to make ourselves look attractive and look more charming, pride of place, all of those things that are, I think, smaller deliverables that we can do as a town. But those big issues, I think we have to sit down with the county and have conversations about how they can help us.
The dining and lodging, that's a vicious circle too, because the less you have, the less you draw in, the less there is to, people see this and they say, why would I start here? There's nothing to start with. It becomes a vicious circle, worse and worse and worse. And what's happened in this town, just by timing, not necessarily any of the reason that closed it. We've had closures in our town that really have made it difficult where people are gonna say, well, there's no lodging here really, and no restaurants, no dining. And to get back out of that is a problem. To get started again, to get out of that spiral is very difficult. And again, bad timing between Bezos closing, everything closing at once. It made a very, very shock here for that too. It's going to be difficult. It's not something the town can do. It's something that our community has got to do more as something that's encourage it. I don't really know specifically how, but open arms, anybody that wants to, be it the gentleman that's coming in with the wood-fired pizza. He's drawing people into Main Street. That's great. food trucks, whatever we have to do to get people to get it started, to go back the other way rather than down, to work our way back up.
Can you pop up here and is there a way to do that
Right.
that is affordable and lucrative to it? And also one of the things that we talked about in the Economic Development and Marketing Committee is, do we have enough people here year round to support all of the restaurants? Because I know, having owned a restaurant for 13 years, there are those peaks and valleys, and you have that off season, and you know that too. And it's really, really hard as a business owner to know how to staff, how to hire. Fortunately, we had people who raft guided and they worked at the mountain, and that was a part of the culture. So I think it's an ongoing conversation that's multifaceted and that we need to keep happening with businesses. And I'm not discouraged because we have all of these wonderful things. The sewer is happening, the lodge is coming in. We have Rev Rail, we have the Tannery Pond, we have all of these wonderful things. We're just in this little bit of a strange spot right now. But within that, we need to be smart, be creative, and look to things like the EDC and the WWIDA and organizations like that that can really be helpful to us and guide us in the right direction.
I'm an optimist. My sense of it is that, even though it's small in this budget, if we put together our own package of economic development, it includes licensing, streetscape, tax exemption. If we put together what authority we have here in town as an economic development engine, my guess, as a package, when businesses think they're gonna come in, here's the package. This is what we can do for this business. Quite honestly. Right now, it doesn't feel like it's coordinated or put together in such a way so that the business person shows up at 10 o'clock, I want to do the following thing. Okay, here's our approach to encouraging business to business development. I think we have more capabilities that we're really thinking about. Perhaps we need to sit down and really think.
And with the comprehensive plan and the CDC working with the board, I think this is a great time to look at those things.
And you just said the comprehensive plan is something we have to stay on top of. And it can become not only an idea vehicle, and a way of keeping track of things, but it's a funding. You use your master plan to go for grants for the town based on a master plan, a comprehensive plan. You're gonna have a lot better success with your grant.
We have right now in town, in the town of Johnsburg and nearby areas, a huge number of Airbnb facilities, and they have been getting guests in them. And so even if there were a website or something we could refer them to and say, hey, there's a lot going on in town, check this out, we could put it right in the documentation that we give them, and the individual places could just dump their information in. It would give people a more comprehensive view of what there is to do in the area. And although I know some of our guests do want to eat out, a lot of them don't. They're cooking in, so it's not the lack of restaurants, it's the lack of, well, where do I look to find out what's going on in that area?
Elizabeth, did you have?
Yeah, I just think, it's all about the packaging, the grandmother, a master plan, you saw what happened in West Falls. The street that you're mentioning has a sign, South Street's open for business. I lived in West Falls for many years, it was a cesspool. You couldn't walk down there alone. And they have put together over the period of 5 to 7 years, an economic development
No,
package that
right.
resulted in millions and millions of dollars of grant money. And so I think, Art, to your point, it's telling the story
Okay. All right, privilege of the floor. Cheryl, come on down.
I can't yell from here, I've got a very.
No, down, no,